Hello everyone, this is Rohit and today I'm going to explain you how you can integrate the REST APIs into your Flutter applications using clean architecture and while handling the JSON serialization and creating data classes. So in this video or a session we are going to talk about these contents, which is the overview of how the clean architecture works, and then we are separation of the layers, which is data domain and presentation, then creating models, then service class, and in the end I'll be also sharing a brief about writing the prompts to get accurate JSON results from the Gemini APIs. This will be helpful when you will be working with uh, API client or any AI client. So in that point of time you have to write some prompts and to get the outputs in the JSON, and so we'll be sharing that knowledge too. Okay, so let's get started with the overview. So you can see this is overview of how the clean architecture works. So clean architecture basically means separation of your every layers so that one should not interfere the another. So in this situation or scenario we are having three different layers. The first one is domain, the second one is data, and the third one is the presentation. So you can see in this uh, diagram that we are having the domain layer, which is separated from data layer and the presentation layer. So this way we can include that our application is production level, and when someone else will come and code into your application they will feel uh, confident, and you can also extend the application, or you can uh, if you have to add any features or functionalities in future you can easily do that. So this is the domain layer, data layer, where you will be getting all the data. So this consists of like data models, the remote data source, which is the REST APIs in our case, then the repository implementation. So these are all our separation. So next you're having the domain layer where you need to define the repository interface, and then you're having the use cases. We will be discussing each of them a bit later. And then we're having the presentation layer where you follow these data and show it into your UI. Okay, so the next thing is creating models. So what is models? Models in Dart are basically the blueprints classes that represents the structure of our data. Now they help organize and manage data in our app, now especially when you're working with APIs or the database. So these are models which you will be using, or which you will parse from JSON responses directly into this Dart models, and you can fetch and access this into your UI side, and uh, your data will be uh, passed and shown on the UI in whatever format you want. So that is a model for this. Now next is creating the API service. So what is this API service class? So I will be giving you a brief example of how I am using this. Just to, let's go through the theory first. So creating the API service. The API service handles direct communication with the backend. Now it uses the, now we are having different things to different frameworks or different libraries for making a HTTP request. So one of them is DO, and this returns a raw JSON data, and this is the lowest layer that deals with the external data sources. So you can see this is the user API service, and here we have defined the DO. So this is a library that we use to make the HTTP request, and then this is the fetch users. Is the example that it will give us the list of what user. So user, you can see that sorry, what's this? Oh no, sorry, my bad. So this is like you can create the API service, and this is list of users. If you see, this is our user class, and when we will be fetching the data from APIs, now we will parse this to the type of user so that we can later access these users directly from the without again parsing the JSON. So that is the API service class. Next is repository. So the repository layer defines the contract or the interface and implementation for the data operations. So when we are fetching some data from the internet or from the API, we want certain features, or we want some use cases, or we want some uh, functions. So in our case, if we are defining the interface of a repository interface, so where you want to get the users, that is one of the methods. That is one of the methods that you want. If you want like update users, you can also do that. So this user repository will contain a list of functions that you want or you in your application. Now it converts the raw data from the API service into the domain models. Okay, so you can see that here we are having one is the repository interface and the second one is the repository implementation, and which extends or implements the user repository. So we will be going in a short discussion over this in a while when I will be demonstrating it through the project. So this you need to create is the user repository implementation, which will extend the user repository, and you need to override the get users. And from here you need to define what you want to do with the get users, which you have created in the interface, which is abstract class user repository. Okay, so next is use case. Now the use case contains the business logic for getting the users. Now it's a simple pass through in which in this case, but in real applications it would contain business rules and data manipulation logic. So that is a use case. So there will be different use cases. So in most of the applications you don't need this, and this is just a additional step. And if you are building a very small application, then you didn't need to use the use cases, and these are basically for specific things that you definitely want in your application. So in our case, if you see the get user use case, we are defining a function which is called execute, and there we are getting from repository the get users. So this is the use case, which will contain most of the business logic, and it will also separate it from the other layers. Next is get it or DI, which is called the dependency injection. Now some of the uh, like when you build classes or you will define a certain like instances. For example, let's say that you are defining one uh, let's say user repository, or is there let's say that you need to define a certain function, or you want to get an instance of it, but you don't want that you create every time the object for that class. So we use the get it function, we use the get it library, or you can also use getx, you can also use other lots of available on the internet. So you can go there and search for it. So in the get it, you have to define like sl equals to get it dot instance. So now this will create a single instance across your application. Now you can use these sl directly and without defining your proper, or without defining the objects for particular classes. Now the service locator or the dependency injection setup registers all the dependencies whatever you want. Now it creates singletons of our services, making them available throughout the app while maintaining proper dependency injection. Now next is UI layer. So the UI layer uses the get use case through dependency injection to fetch and display the users. Now it maintains its own state using the stateful and update the UI when the data is loaded. Now this keeps the presentation logic separate from the business logic. Now you can see this is the UI layer where we are getting the use case, where we are getting the data from the use case. So this is get user use case and sl get users use case, and there below we have the list of user which will contain a array. So you can see this is the feature void and load users. So in this case we are using the get user use case dot execute function, which you have defined previously. So this one is the execute function. So when we define it, and now we are setting the state to users equals to result. Now you might use, instead of this set state, you can use like riverpod, you can use providers, you can use block, etc. There are lots of libraries for this state management. So similarly here now we are showing this in the list view dot builder. So that's the simple just little examples of each of these topics. Now I'm going through the project, and let me show you that how things happen. So now this is the one of the examples that I'm going to give. This is my previous year project repository, and when you go and fork this, then you will see something similar, which seems some same. So here we are having one send post request, and this is a future, and you can see this is the model. So model class name is grok new model, grok model new, and which I have created. Now how you can create how do you know that what JSON you are getting? So you can use postman or any of the to get a post or get and get the results. So once you will get that, just copy the whole thing in the postman, and then you can go to websites like convert JSON to dart objects, and it will create a dart objects for you. So in my case we are having id object created model choices usage, and these are the same keywords that I am getting in the I am getting this in the JSON response, and this is my constructor. Now here we are having from JSON, so we are then converting this from JSON to the objects, which is grok model new, and this we are converting. So you can see that this is our grok model new, and this is the ID, and then from the JSON we are collecting the ID, which is similar with the ID. Then we have the object, which is object and created, and this is the created. So in this way we are passing, or we mapping this JSON object JSON data into the grok model new. Similarly we having two JSON, means if you want to convert this from the data class to the JSON, then you can use this one, where you will return the ID of the ID, then object, then created, then model, etc. Similarly we are having one choice, so the choice is list of choices choice, and similar is a choice. So you can see this is the model of the response that I am getting from the grok model, from the grok response, and then I am passing this to the grok models, or I'm passing this to the model or the dart models. Now next is I'm going through this grok model new, and when I come here we having one API URL which you need to pass, and this is I'm using the do, and this is the post method, so I'm using the post and I'm passing the URL, and in the headers we are passing the authorization key along with this, and then the data, and this is the user prompt that I'm passing, and the model I've listed. So these are all, and if we are getting the 200 status, then we are then using the from JSON. So grok model new dot from JSON, and then we are storing this into the response dot data. So from JSON, if you go here, and you will see that we are mapping the JSON from to the dart models, like something like this. Fine. Now if you are failing, then it will show us the error code, and along with that we are having the response dot data, and this will return you null, or in case if it fails, then it'll print the error. Now you can see this is my repository. So I have listed like some of them are didn't this is just for testing. So you can see this is the get places detail, and this is my repository. So this is in the another layer which is inside of the domain, and this is the repository. Now when I implement this repository, so in repository you define which type of functions you want. So for that we need to go into the implementation. So this is get places repository implementation, and this is the another class which is in the which must be in the data layer, and then this is the get place detail repository, and you need to override those all functions which you have written. So here is get place details, then get places details, and then get available models, get travel destinations, etc. In our case this is get places detail. Now this is grok model new. We are creating one object, and this is one of the objects, so grok API service dot send post request, and since we are from taking the service class into this final grok service and grok API service. So grok API service and dot send post request const, and then we are passing the prompt in it. So if you go back and you see there is a user prompt that you need to pass, right? Yep. So now here we are, this is for the prompt structure. Whatever prompt you give, it will return you the response. And it is very much to remember in your mind that when you're using the prompt to send the prompt, then you are expecting it to be a type of grok model new, and if it will give you a response that doesn't match this particular scenario, then there will be a parsing error. So you need to be very careful with this grok model that you are creating, otherwise it will fail and it will give you a parsing error. So just mind, and I will be explaining this in the end, like how you can create a good prompt or a good to get the response from the Gemini or whatever AI you use. Now you can see that I have also given this one, because whenever I am getting the data, I am getting this in like this starting from these three indentations, then the JSON, and finally ending with this. So I need to remove this one, and again this is for the removing the trailing commas from here and here, for before this bracket and before this bracket. And finally I am then decoding this JSON map and JSON decode, the whatever response I'm getting, I'm decoding it, and then we are writing this from places. So you can see this is the place is another place is like another model class. So what happens is I'm getting a long list of JSON, so I want to decode that to JSON and to particular place. So one of them is the place which I'm getting like this, so I want to store that value in this place data class, correct? So that's why this is the implementation of the class. Now I am using this get place details in the use case. So you can see this is the get places detail use case. Now we are having one get places, and then get travel destinations. So in get places, we are then again simplifying this repository dot get places detail and then city. So why the major use for the use cases is like you don't need to change the get place function itself. You can just change the code here, and you will simply didn't have to change much in your front end side. So this will create like this doesn't feels good to you at that moment, at this moment, but when you create a big and larger projects, it will be very helpful. So that is how we are using the get places use case. Okay, and this will again, it will be a future and will be going to return us the place. And if I see the get place or get places, whatever it is, so you can see this is having the get responses. Okay, so that is the get responses method, and this is again a function which will return me the places. So now I am using I'm using the providers with the I'm using provider with riverpod. So this is the current AI model selected, and this is the right reference. So this will just store that whatever model that the user will select. Again we have the use case sl.get, and then get place use case, then again use case dot get places again. So as I've already told you that this SL will be used for getting an instance. So if we see that this SL is defined here, so this is dependency injection class. This is initialized dependencies, and you will write all the dependencies that you need. So maybe it's like repository implementation, or we are running out of time, or what. Yep, grok API services, anything that you need, you will be using it here. Okay, so where we are, send post request, get places detail, places, yep, this one. So in this case, now in this way you can utilize this get responses, and then you will finally show the data get responses here, and then we will be storing this into the places, and then this places will again be used in several places of your UI or whatever you want to show. Okay, so now that's the end of that presentation. Now I'm going to teach you like how you can create a good prompts. so that you can get a correct JSON results when you write a prompt, or when you will write a query, or whatever, then you will get want to get that in the response. So you can see that here we are having one like get places detail, where we are getting a result which contains a JSON. Like from the Gemini, I'm getting a result which is in the JSON. So you will see that this is the JSON I want from Gemini to send me. Now for that, this title, places, and this is the proper structure. If we go here, then this is what I have used in the prompts. So create an interlinked story about 10 different CT. Please provide a response in a structured JSON format that matches the following model. Now this is the format in one line structure. So if you will use this in any of the AI tools, then it will structure the properly prompts into like this JSON response. So whenever you are creating a prompt, whenever you are creating wanting that the AI should return you a response in JSON, then you will be creating a prompt like this with proper description of everything. Else what happens is, every time you try giving a prompt, then it will give you another results. So in that scenario, the existing models doesn't match and will give you an error of parsing JSON. So that's what you need to remember. So that's all. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you liked it.